Well, you have to tell it again.
We can wait till the end. With this size crowd, Liz, do you want them to ask questions via chat, or are you comfortable with this one?
Oh, no. So I am going to share my screen. I have a PowerPoint, and so I'll go through, and so you won't see the whole screen. Hi, Carla.
Hello.
But no, with this size group, I'm very, very comfortable with y'all just raising your hand and asking questions. I will stop periodically. I kind of have it broken down into several sections, and I'll stop periodically and check on questions. So if we could maybe wait till that point and then and ask questions at that point, that would be great. So make a note of your questions, or you can throw them in the chat if you're worried you're going to forget, and we'll look at the chat at that time. Sound good?
Mm-hmm. And Liz, you told me a little bit about this course that you do. How was that stuff that was taught in your schools? Do you want to relay that on? I thought that
was well, so my background, I too am from Minnesota. I live in San Diego now. And I got my bachelor's degree in social work from Augsburg in Minneapolis, and then several years later went back for my master's at University of St. Mary's University of Minnesota down in Winona. My master's is in philanthropy and development. And so that's where I really got my teeth into fundraising. And so it wasn't until I really started working in fundraising that I pretty much, everything I'm going to teach you guys is stuff that wasn't taught to me. It's stuff I had to learn along the way. And I was telling Eric, it's things that I wish someone had told me before I started into this, because it would have made things so much easier. And so I do love to teach this to anybody who will listen. And I've actually, I teach for University of California, San Diego, just in the extension program and the fundraising and development certificate program. So parts of this I teach in some of those classes, other things I've done in workshops, and I've just kind of put it all together since we had a couple hours thinking about what your questions were and what I thought would be helpful. So it's kind of just, I've morphed a bunch of things together that aren't necessarily always taught together, but I think you'll handle it. So,
and you are teaching from your office for where?
Girl Scouts San Diego. See the girls? So I'm the Chief Advancement Officer here at Girl Scouts San Diego. So we serve San Diego and Imperial counties down in the corner of the country. And we're serving 15,000 girls locally here with the help of about 8,000 adult volunteers. So I oversee all of the fundraising for our council, as well as marketing and communications.
All right.
You ready? Should I share my screen? All right, I'm going to spread this out. I want to make sure I can see all of you as well. So, all right, everybody see my screen? All right. So I told you I'm going to divide it into a few different sections. And so the first one is I've done this workshop countless times, and it's really, truly, if somebody had just told me this up front, I wouldn't have gotten so nervous about fundraising. So it's really just fundraising 101, things I wish I'd known. And then the next section, and we'll stop for questions. The next section is engaging your board in fundraising. And a lot of that you can adapt for other committees or perhaps even your members. The next section is types of funders, then how to figure out who to target. And that really is geared at identifying what corporations, what foundations, but also what individuals, as you see who they're supporting. And then really focus on, the last section will focus on corporate funders. And then I have all the questions that were sent to me, and we'll go through those and make sure that those are discussed. So how's that? Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, so let me get my cursor in the right place so that I can advance my PowerPoint. So I want to just start by talking about our own personal relationships, because everybody here has personal relationships. We have all kinds of them. And so acquaintances, right? We have acquaintances all over the place. Aside from Eric and Carla, you are all my acquaintances. I've just met you. You have lots of acquaintances that might live on your street, people that you know the name of their dog, but you don't know their names. Cordial relationship, you say hi, you go on your way. And then we've got people that we're closer to, our friends, the people that we get together with periodically. And that relationship deepens. We get to know more about each other. We find out who we can trust, who we have fun with, who we don't want as our friends, right? And so you think about qualities of a friend, and I'm not going to brainstorm with you here. Think about things like similar interests, similar values. Do we like the same things? Somebody who's not too needy, because we all know people that they're only calling us when they need something, and those aren't necessarily the good qualities of a friend. Somebody who's a good listener, who's helpful, respectful, and again, it's not all about them. So I think we'd all agree that those are the qualities of a good friend. So then we have those other friends that become our committed partners. Obviously, those that we make our life partners. But think about our friends, those friends that we've had forever and ever, the friends that you can not see for years, and you pick up the phone and you talk like you never missed a beat, right? Those are our committed partners. And so at the beginning, we have a lot of acquaintances, and then we have friends, and then there's just those select few that make it to the end. And so I put this together quite a few years ago, the courting process. It's like dating, right? So you have an initial attraction, you go to, I'm going to switch something on my screen so I can see it better. So I'm not looking so far away. I've got 3 monitors here, you guys. So you initially meet somebody, you get to know each other, you learn and share, you trust, you get more deeply involved, you get deeper into the water, right? And so you go from acquaintance to friends to that ultimate relationship. And really every single relationship goes through this process, and it goes to as deep as a person or a relationship is going to go. And some of these relationships take a really long time to develop. To as deep as they're going to be, and some it happens very, very quickly. But think about it. Now, Eric and Carla, on your first date, did you get married?
No.
A resounding no. That's pretty unusual for somebody to get married on their first date. Yet in the fundraising world, people, when they hear that I'm a fundraiser, they go, oh my gosh, I could never do your job. And I mean, like, they get nervous just even imagining it, right? Because people think that in fundraising, people are going up to a person because we know they have money. We'll go up to Bill Gates and ask him for $1 million, right? Just because we know they have money. Well, no, it's just like a relationship. We need to go through this process. So I'm going to dig into that a little bit more, but we wouldn't do that in a dating relationship. Or a friend relationship, and we're certainly not going to do that in fundraising. So yeah, our professional relationships are not at all unlike our personal relationships. And so when you think about fundraising, it's really about developing friends, and it's finding those people that you trust, that trust you, that you have those similar qualities. And so our job as fundraisers is really about inspiring the ultimate relationship, right? Taking people as deep into that water as they will go. And once I learned that, it just was a whole lot easier. It's like, well, I can make friends, it doesn't have to be all about asking for money. So I don't even know what that page was. So just carry on, friendly audience. So if our hang on one second. I'm trying to switch something here. So when we're fundraising, we are doing the exact same thing. We're identifying people, those acquaintances, getting to know who they are, taking them deeper, which is cultivating, and then asking them for money. That's the part that makes you want to throw up, right? And then thanking and nurturing. And all of that happens, and people get really hung up on this part, on the ask. And And that is the scariest part. But in reality, that's how big the ask is. I've seen studies that if you put it on a pie chart, that asking part is like less than 5% of the time you spend on a donor relationship. So let's skip the ask part for right now, and let's just focus on all the rest, because all of you know how to make friends, right? Y'all, Breeze, you're not sure. He's like, I don't know for sure. But we all know how to make friends. We all know which friends are important to us and why they're important to us. And you think about that. Well, it's the same thing with donors. So we're going to focus on these other three parts. And if you can get those three parts down, the money will follow. Yes, you do need to ask people, but a lot of times in those cases, once you've done the rest of it and people are feeling really inspired and excited by what you're talking about, they're going to say, I'd like to get involved. How can I do that? And so they're asking you for it. And I really mean this, keep the dollar signs out of your head. And I'll give you an example. So when I was in grad school at St. Mary's, this was before you could just pick up your smartphone and make a video. We had to go, we were broken up into partners, and I had my partner, Kevin, who I knew very well, very experienced fundraiser, and I was very green at fundraising. And we had to go in the library and into the video studio, whatever it was called, it was a big deal, and record us each doing an ask. Well, he was extremely experienced at it. And I was totally, like, I probably didn't sleep the night before. It was a big deal. So Kevin does his ask, and we're role playing. And so he told me who I was, one of his donors, and he asked me for $10,000. And of course I said yes, and that was all fine. And then it was time for me to do my ask. And I worked at Intermediate District 287, which is in your neighborhood. I was actually serving the Western metro area of Minneapolis, and was working, I'd done a lot of grant writing for them, but wanted to get into imagining doing other fundraising, right, for the schools. And so I was imagining him as a parent, and I was going to ask him for like $100. And you guys, this is on video. We're pretending I'm with a friend. And I was like, I couldn't even look at him. I was like, so would you give, it was like a Saturday Night Live skit. It was the most horrific thing I'd ever experienced. I was so uncomfortable pretending to ask him for money. And he was over there, he goes, just ask. And it was horrible. So I totally get the anxiety that comes with asking for money. But if we're not thinking about the money, so when you're going on your first date, hopefully you're not thinking about, oh, I wonder if she'll marry me, or I wonder if he'll think I'm cool. I mean, you're thinking that, but I wonder if whatever. You got to just focus on, I want to get to know this person. And I just want to find out, do we even have a connection? So we're talking about a nonprofit. Do we have similar values? Does our nonprofit resonate with them? Are they somebody that would be inspired by the work that we're doing? All of that kind of stuff. And just getting to know them as a human being, and get the money out of your head. Because you really focus on that heart connection, sharing your personal passion for the mission, and engaging in that. And if they see that and they start going deeper into the water and wanting to know more, then you take that relationship where it goes. You're not going to ask them for money the first time you meet them. You're not going to go in, you're not going to ask somebody to marry you on the first date. It's not going to happen. If you go on a date and the timing isn't quite right, and we've all done this, you go in for the kiss too soon, it's awful. It's just a deal breaker. So you don't want to ask for money too soon. Don't go in for the kiss too soon. It's just what you got to do. So just think about that as your personal relationships. And talk about, share those stories of impact, the things that the differences that your organization has made in individuals' lives. Not about the money, but the difference that the mission has made. How the arts have changed somebody's life. How that dog tell one story about one dog that has changed a vet's life. share those stories, because those stories will stick with them, and that will help to deepen the understanding and deepen the relationship, and get to know them too. What are they all about? What are they involved in? It could be completely unrelated to your mission. You're wanting to get to know them as human beings. Again, just reminding you of this whole process. So looking at that, the initial attraction, right? What was it that interested them in your mission, in your organization? Did they come to an art show? Did they read an article in the newspaper? Did they see something on the news? Did they hear a speaker at Rotary? Where did they first hear about you? And you want to find out about that. Maybe they volunteered, a friend brought them and said, oh, come with me on Saturday afternoon and help me with this. And they're just like, wow, I had no idea. What's this all about? So figuring out what that initial attraction is, right? It's where you're getting to know them. It's your neighbors. Finding out, how they got introduced. Talk about your own involvement with the organization. Just like you get to know your friends. Oh yeah, we moved in that house up there, and we moved here from wherever, and blah blah blah, and find them, get to know them as individuals. And so then we're getting deeper and deeper into the water. And not everybody's gonna. Some people might be, oh, you're with that organization. Good to meet you. Carrying on, and they're going to go their separate way. Just like our friends, there's neighbors that we never get to know very deeply, and that's okay. Not everybody is going to be a donor to the organization, but always listening carefully. Think back to what the characteristics of a good friend are, right? It's not all about us. We want to get to know them and find out what they're about. This takes time. We can't rush that. We can't just rush to the checkbook. And you begin to trust and get more deeply involved. You might notice that they are, you can invite them to different meetings or events. Say, yeah, you should come check it out. We're doing this, come to the Pride Parade, come to, whatever it is that you're doing, but invite them to be a guest for something that's going on. And always taking note of what's important to them, what seems to ignite them, right? So again, looking at this, qualities of a good nonprofit partner really mirrors qualities of a good friend. You're looking for people that are interested in the things that that your mission impacts. You're looking for, nobody wants a nonprofit that's always needy, always asking for money. Nobody wants to be, just like we don't want our kids to come to us every time they call, they need money, right? We want to be able to give back to them as well. And making sure it's not all about the organization. And that might look like, you're going to get to know a donor. And when I say a donor, it could be an individual, it could be a company, could be a foundation, could be somebody working for the government, whoever that donor is. You may get to know them and you find out that, they're involved with the Center for the Arts, but that they like biking. And you see this really great article about biking, and it's the type of biking that guy's interested in. Send him an email, send him a link to the article and say, I thought of you. It has nothing to do with the Arts Center. It has to do with the relationship. Touches like that really, really resonate with donors, and they want to know that they're seen for more than just their money and their support. Again, you just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And we get into that synergy and partnership part. And that's where you really start to see they're taking the initiative to get engaged. They're showing up at the shows. They're showing up at the events. They're calling and saying, hey, I want to get my friend on the newsletter list. I can't see, where is that link? Those kinds of things. And their interests become more clear. And later tonight, we're going to talk about the different interests and really looking at what the different areas that people are interested in. Because just because somebody's interested in your nonprofit doesn't mean they have the exact same interests of everybody else who's interested in funding your nonprofit. We all have different reasons for funding different organizations, and we'll talk about that more later. And engaging others in the mission, they're telling other people about, they're signing somebody up for the newsletter, and they're becoming committed partners. Okay. And committed partners, when you're in a nonprofit, your committed partners are those people that they're going to stick with you through thick and thin, not just, They're not just going to be the ones that are there when things are going well. They want to know the problems. They want to help you out. They, they're the people that are going to give as much as they can possibly give. When someone is inspired by a mission, whatever that mission is, if somebody's really into it and they're really inspired by it, they will give whatever they have ample of. So if they have time, they will volunteer buku hours. If they have connections, they will make connections. If they have goods, stuff that they can provide to you, they will give you in-kind things. And if they have money, they will give money because that mission is so important to them. And so that's what you want to move people towards. Those are your committed partners. Those are people that are going to give whatever they have ample of. And ultimately, they're going to be the people that give, when they're individuals, that give planned gifts that include you in their will, which is really, really important for every nonprofit because that ensures your future viability. So we take them as far into the water as they will go. Just keep on moving them as far as they go. Don't push them in if they're not ready to go in deeper, but keep leading them. And you'll learn who is just always going to be, nope, I'm going to do my $10 a month and that's all I want. And I don't want anybody to call me. I just want to get your email newsletter and we're good. That's fine. And then there's other people that want to be everything and everywhere in between. So again, don't go in for the kiss too soon. It'll kill you. It's not worth it. You come off like a used car salesman. No offense, Eric. But you just inspire them with your impact, and you'll know when the time is right to ask them for money, to ask them if they'd be interested in getting involved. Just like when you're on a date and you can feel that energy and you know when the right time is to go in for a kiss. Now back at that, when I said identify, cultivate, ask was the little thing, right? And then steward. Steward is taking care of people after you've gotten the money. Okay, it's stewardship. So it's thanking them promptly and appropriately. Like that, the standard is to send a thank you within 2 days. One thing I've always wanted to do, but have never gotten the support of my organizations that I've worked for, is I would prefer to not cash a check until I've sent a thank you note. And I think that's because that makes you send those thank you notes really fast. But that doesn't mean that you sit on the checks until the end of the week. You get that thank you note right away, and make sure it's really sincere, and really helps them know that they've made a difference. If it's $5 or if it's $500, it doesn't matter. Every dollar matters. Provide whatever expected follow-up. If it's a grant, whatever reports are expected, that's typical. If it's a sponsorship, making sure that they get the visibility and all that comes with that, all those deliverables, but also provide the unexpected follow-up. And so that might be, providing a special video clip that you didn't tell them they were going to get, or adding an extra social media thank you to a donor or something like that. Looking for those unexpected things. They expect, if they've asked for things and that's the contract, you're going to give that, but you need to go above and beyond. So that's really strong stewardship. Let me just say a word about stewardship. You may have heard this, the average stewardship, or not stewardship rate, donor retention rate across the nation has been going down year after year after year. Now I don't even know what the average is. It's way under 50%. Like the average retention rate year over year is like 46% or something like that. So that means that of the donors who gave last year, only 46% of them gave this year. And that's really sad, because if anybody's in business, it's cheaper and easier to keep the customers you have than to acquire new ones. And if we're losing 54, no, I'm not doing the math right, 54% of our donors every year, we're spending a lot of time and energy and resources getting new donors in the door, So that's where stewardship comes in, because if donors feel loved, if they feel cared for, if they feel like you've noticed that the difference that they're making, and they're saying, I wish I had my pile of thank you notes I just signed. I write a note on the bottom of every thank you note, and I personally sign them, but I write on the bottom of every letter on letterhead, I write a little note and I underline things in the letter that says, you made this happen. You made a difference. I noticed that somebody who gave $5 has been giving $5 twice a year for 12 years. That's a big deal. Thank you for supporting us year after year for so many years. You're making a big difference in girls' lives. Comments like that, they're like, oh, I'm just not part of I'm not just part of the wallpaper. They actually notice that I've been doing that. So stewardship is absolutely key for every organization. Developing meaningful relationships. Let's see if I can make my other thing work here so I'm not turning my whole head sideways. This is one piece I didn't work on before Eric and I opened it up. Developing didn't work. Developing meaningful relationships, really as you're developing those relationships, people want to feel like they're making a difference, that they're a partner, and share that insider information, let them know, give them access, to the director, get them, you've been a supporter to us for a long time. I'd love to have lunch with you and pick your brain about something I'm working on. We're struggling with this and we're trying to get I'd love your advice. There's a saying in the fundraising world that you may have heard that if you want money, you ask for advice. If you want advice, you ask for money. So asking for advice is always a good way to endear people, but you get some really great perspective on it as well. Don't ask for advice if you're not willing to really listen to it either. So calls, personal notes, visits, all of that makes a difference in the whole stewardship thing and developing those relationships. And remember always, and you're going to see this more than once tonight, relationships are two-sided. So often it's the charity asking, and we need to be giving as well, in addition to our mission. And so really nurturing those relationships, and remember that, so that it's truly a win-win relationship, and especially with corporate funders. And I know you guys work a lot with corporate funders. They really expect it to be a two-way street, and that's where they're going to get engaged. But remember that it's a two-sided relationship. So let's stop here for a second. I've just been yammering on for quite a while. Any thoughts or questions from anybody?
I can tell you, just from our experience at the Arts Center, the stewardship part is the thing that we're probably the most lacking on.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've got thank you cards, but it's doing the timely responses. And especially when you're talking about the percentage of retention of donors, we've actually got, just a handful of donors that you can count on every year. And
yeah, and you need a lot more. Because part of it too, those donors will get weary. It's like they keep coming to me. They keep coming to me, and yes, they want to be that, but you need more than one sugar daddy. You need to broaden that out. So I think it is really, really important. And if that's all you focus on is stewardship, you will see the results of it. And I think I'll talk about this later too, but like those thank you notes, a personal note. So board members, it's a great way to engage board members is to get them to write thank you notes. And those aren't your formal thank yous that say, this is your tax deductible donation. You need to send that out right away. But then, and it doesn't even have to be, it could be a donor that gave 2 years ago and you haven't heard from them, but you give a few names, however many names that your board members or committee members are willing to write to, give them the note cards, and give them the name, the address, and just a little bit of background, not how much, not the dollar amounts. You don't want to share the dollar amounts. But just say this person has given for the last 3 years, or they used to give at this, they used to give to, I don't know what, this event every year, and now we haven't heard from them. Or they're especially into watercolors, or they're especially into whatever it is. And then the board member knows just a couple things about that person and can write a 3 or 4 sentence thank you note to to that donor and just say, you know, and to get a handwritten note for starters these days is a really big deal. Signed by, and they sign it, you know, Liz Sheahan, board member. Oh my gosh, a board member. Why are they writing to me? Quite a few years ago, I was working for a national hunger relief organization, and I was doing a presentation at a church in Virginia, and I had my board members doing these little note cards. Every month I would send them however many they wanted. One guy wanted 10, one person could do 2, whatever they're willing to do. And I just had every month I would send them these. So I'm at this church and I'd done a presentation to a men's group about our mission. And we were standing around talking afterwards, and I didn't know anybody at this church prior to this presentation. And one of the gentlemen who was there said, I just want everybody to know that this organization really has their act together. And he pulled out of his suit coat a very tattered thank you note from one of our board members that he'd gotten. And he goes, look at this. This is from a board member. And he knew that I had been giving to them for 20 years. And look at that. And everybody was like, wow, they do know what they're doing. And I'm like, well, we got you fooled, but it worked, you know. He was really, really impressed by that. He carried it around and shared it with people, and he made sure he brought it with to show because he knew I was presenting that day. And so you can be sure that that man felt very much appreciated and was going to pay attention the next time another appeal came, another opportunity came. So
Can I share?
Yeah.
Yeah, years ago, long before I was the mayor, Carla and I tried to help out the Stagecoach Days in Wyoming. And, you know, we were doing really well in real estate. And we brought a former SNL writer to do a stand-up comedy at the Stagecoach Days. And, you know, at the end of it, you know, there was no recognition or anything, you know, we weren't expecting anything big, but not even a thank you from the city. You know, and a few years later, I was helping build a rain garden at the library, right, Rebecca? And you know, we worked out there all day one day, you know, just digging in the dirt, making it right. And you know, I didn't even think anything of it. And you know, a few days later, I get this beautiful handwritten thank you note from the library. You know what? And that little note made me want to do more. You know, it
And you did.
monetary value whatsoever, but it made me want to do more. And that's probably one of the reasons why I'm a good friend of Rebecca down here, who used to be the librarian at the Wyoming library. So
Yeah.
nice work, Rebecca.
We became buddies.
Yeah, that's so cool. It does. It makes a big, big difference. People notice that. Thank you, Eric, for sharing that. So Jess asked a question in the chat. Would you suggest a database of donors and information on them, or is that creepy? No, that's absolutely best practice. You need to know who your donors are and keep track of that, because you will have lots of donors and you won't always remember everything about them. And you do need to keep notes on them, because even though you think, oh, I will never forget this conversation, once you start having a lot of donors, you will forget, oh my gosh, was that her? When was that? Or where were they going? Or, you know, and you want to keep track of that information. So yes, you definitely want a database of donors. And it can be as simple as an Excel. You don't have to subscribe. And there are, and Salesforce offers free to nonprofits that are smaller size. There's several different options. If you want something fancier than an Excel, but definitely do that. And share it with others in the organization. Only those that need to know. So you don't want it wide open. That is creepy. It's private information. And so you don't, like I was saying, you don't tell the board members when you say, you know, send a thank you note to Angie Christensen. You wouldn't say she gives $50 every single month. you would say she gives every single month, and she's been giving for the last 2 years, and this is what's really important to her. Yeah, but yeah, you want to protect. It's very, very important that you have a secure database and that you're protecting the donor's information and that you are not selling it or giving it away to anyone, and only giving that information to those that need to know. So the people that need to know how much each donor has given are the people that are printing up the thank you notes, the official thank you note that says, thank you for your gift of $50 received on March 22nd, 2022, with your little tax deductible blurb on the bottom. But make it a good letter that makes them see, wow, do you know what a difference your $50 made? This is what you did. You made this happen. Not you helped us do this. You made it happen, right? So remove the organization. And we could talk for a lot longer about what makes a good letter, but I think that it's always an art that needs honing. So,
And I think
all right.
your handwritten little blurb, yeah, makes a huge difference.
It really does. People really know that, because otherwise, you know, we all get mail and it's like, oh, and then when they have the printed handwritten thing, I hate that. That bothers me more than just having it typed. So yeah, use a different color ink so people know that it's really you that signed it and all of that. All right, let's go on to the next section. I moved my monitor around so I don't have to turn my head all the way over. And this is about engaging our board in fundraising, which is a challenge for pretty much any nonprofit. So let me just, I've served on many boards. I serve on a couple right now. So I speak from the viewpoint of being a board member, as well as working very intimately with our board of directors. We forget that board members are just human beings, just like the rest of us, and that they join a board. A lot of people join boards not even realizing what their responsibilities are to the organization as a board member, and that they don't have all the answers. And board, I've come onto a board and I'm like, oh my gosh, I do not know what I'm doing here. I don't understand all the ins and outs of the organization. Most of them have busy other jobs or things that they're doing that are keeping them busy. So they're not living and breathing this nonprofit organization. They're joining a board, hopefully, because they're passionate about the mission and they like what they've seen and they want to be part of that. So you want to do that. But remember that they're human, and we need to, as the organization, we need to build them up and set them up for success so they look good and aren't put in a position where they're like, oh, I don't really know. I don't know what I'm doing, and somebody's going to catch on. I guarantee you, every board member at some point feels like they should know more than they do. So we want to build their confidence, empower them, and make them look absolutely brilliant. They don't live and breathe their mission like we do. So we don't want to overwhelm them. They don't need to know every little detail, and we certainly don't expect them to remember every detail that we do share with them. But they need to know high enough level, and they need to know who to talk to if they need more information or where to go to get more information. But trying to, handing them a 50-page strategic plan is probably not realistic. They're not going to take the time they're not going to have the time or take the time to read it, but making sure that they understand the direction the organization is going and why is really, really important. Providing them with some high-level talking points so that they can speak intelligently and look good to the public. This is, and I'll send the PDF of this presentation to you guys, because this is a talking points thing that I created when I was at the San Diego Food Bank for board members to, they would never say all of these things. And I don't know how much you can see on your little screens, but the top is just.
Actually, you're not sharing right now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Oh my gosh, you guys, you should have spoken up a long time ago. Eric. Okay. Now, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, you didn't miss much. It was just what I was saying. So this is the first thing I'm sharing. So no, that was really tiny when you couldn't see it, wasn't it? Anyway, it was just a one-pager that was talking points that we gave to the board. And and we dated it. You can see this one was dated in April of 19. And that way they knew when the most recent one was, and they could throw out the old one when they got a new one. But it's kind of gave them verbiage on how to talk about the food bank, how to bring it up to potential supporters. And then it was just some of the big stats, because those of us who worked at the food bank, we could rattle off, you know, the rate of hunger and how many people were hungry every month and all of that kind of stuff. This provided some key things. You know, 486,000 people in San Diego County are food insecure. And even to say, what does food insecurity mean, right? They don't always know where their next meal will come from. That's 1 in 8 people and 1 in 5 kids. That sentence alone, that way they could refer to it and get it in their head. And then as they're talking with people, the different things, just some key stats, some key information, key verbiage that we wanted them to use, that brought it down to earth. At the San Diego Food Bank, we don't just want to fill bellies, we want to end the cycle of poverty. Key verbiage. And so you can see how you could pull some different things, like the number of kids that were served by your organization, the number of adults, if you have special programs, that kind of things, things like that you want your board member. It doesn't have to have this many words on it, but a single page. And then when you have updated stats, you give that at the next board meeting, or committee meeting or whatever. I use these for committees as well, and would just, so actually this example was for our Leadership Council's corporate committee. So the only thing that changed was the intro on the top. So they felt like they had some verbiage. One of our committee members was organizing our Blues Fest a few years ago when I worked for the San Diego Food Bank. And a radio station had contacted him and wanted to do an interview. And he was like, oh my gosh, and they wanted to ask him questions about the food bank. Well, he didn't work at the food bank. He was a, you know, music producer basically. And he said, but I had that in front of me while I was on this radio interview. And he goes, it was the best. I felt so smart. They were so impressed with everything I knew. And I was able to just rattle off all these different things. So it's arming our board members, our committee members with those talking points so that they can just pull those little nuggets. And they might not have them right handy when they're, you know, they're not going to pull out their sheet and when they're having lunch with somebody, but they'll get these stats in their head more readily, or they'll say, let me get back to you, let me find out, and they'll be able to go to their form and do that. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna put here. So we're setting board members up to look smart, okay? Providing them with, same thing with committee meetings. Whenever they're having a meeting, it's a lot of work, but providing them with agendas and bullet points before each meeting. So when they come into a meeting, a committee that they're on or chairing, not members of a committee, but the chairs of the committee, or if they're coming to a board meeting, that you are preparing them with everything that they need to know. They're going to be much more engaged. They're going to feel like they have stature, right? And so they're going to be more likely to want to support and do all these other things for you. Always ask for their input and approval, and ensure that they know what their role is in each situation. Okay, you're going to do this. You just want to get their opinion. You want to ask for a vote. You want to do whatever it is, but preparing them, taking the time. Some board members want it just in an email and they're cool with that. Others want to talk through it and do that. And so it's a lot of work, but it's really pays off in the long run from a fundraising standpoint, because the stronger they feel supported by the organization, the more they're going to want to support the organization. And then checking in with them between meetings to see if everything's going okay. A board member's role is to inspire engagement in your mission. Think about that. That's their role. They want what you really want them to do. Yeah, they have other things if they're the treasurer, they're the different things, but in the community, you want them to be an ambassador for you. You want them to be a rainmaker and bring people closer. And so focus on them, not on, and I guarantee you every board I've ever been on and is everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, you're going to ask me to ask for money. They're walking around with the dollar sign stuck in their head and they can't even think of anything else because they're so afraid that somebody's going to make them ask for money. Yes, have a give get policy where you expect donor or board members to give whatever level and get, which is asking for money. But those gets can come from introductions. So what I do with our board, and I've done this with the boards that I've been on in my past organizations as well, is get rid of those dollar signs out of their head and just think about who you know, inspire them, tell them the stories, find out if you find somebody that, wow, they're really interested in Girl Scouts, you know, and I had no idea that Girl Scouts was about developing leadership. I thought it was just a fun after school craft program. If somebody's interested in finding out more, like what we do with girls in STEM or girls in the outdoors, invite them, and I give them the talking points, but I give them opportunities. Invite them to this event. If it's somebody that's like CEO level or high level and they would really enjoy meeting with the CEO, make that introduction and we will arrange lunch with the CEO or a meeting with the CEO, and you, the board member, can be there to bridge that relationship. So they're just focused on making those connections. Once they make those introductions to us, it's our job as staff to carry that weight and lead them to the opportunities to give. I give those board members the credit for their give. If they have a give requirement, they get credit for anybody they bring in the door that becomes a donor. So they're not having to ask for that money. If they're comfortable with it, that's cool. But if they're not having to ask for that money, they're just making that introduction. And when those donors or when those connections turn into donors, I give credit back to those board members. They're so much more excited to do that than to think they have to go twist arms. Nobody likes to do that. So just making sure they have different opportunities and they know what they can, how they can engage people. That will help you tremendously with your fundraising. And again, remember, board members are human. We all need praise. We all need kudos when we've done well. So really shine the spotlight on those individual board members and what they've done. Thank you to Nathan for introducing us to the Safeway store down the street. They came in for a tour and we're so excited. We're having conversation with them. Big kudos, and you get propped up for doing that, right? You know, thank you, Breeze, for inviting us to present at the Rotary Club next Thursday. I'm really excited and we'll report back on that. You know, 40 people were there and there was lots of interest in what the Art Center is doing. That kind of kudos will go a long way, because then other people are like, wait a minute, they're not saying my name. What do I need to do? And they're going to jump on board. So questions or thoughts on the whole board experience?
I like what you're saying about equipping the board members with talking points. That could be every month at a board meeting. Get them you know, generate a list of talking points that are up to date and current. I also like them not feeling necessary about being the one asking for money. You know, even though the ask thing is that little bitty thing, you know, but it's
the elephant in the room.
Yep.
It's huge. It's suffocating.
And I think it's outstanding, outstanding idea giving credit to them for bringing people in. I think that's really big.
Yeah, I mean, think about it with the Arts Center, you know, thanks to Joe for bringing those 4 friends to the art show. That was really great. We had great conversations with several of them, and, you know, that kind of stuff, because it generates everybody else's ideas. And I say to board members, you don't have to ask for money. You just need to make those introductions, because then it's like, okay, I get it. Because they're so used to people saying, well, we need you to bring in $3,000, $5,000, whatever it is. And that will keep people from coming to meetings because they're so paralyzed by it. So you want them to be your ambassadors and be engaged. And pretty soon they'll be bringing in money, because this will come naturally. They'll get it and they'll be so excited. They'll hear the stories. They'll share the stories. Sharing stories of impact is so powerful as well, because you tell a short story about, you know, somebody who had been really depressed or whatever, and then they found the arts and it helped them through their mental health, and what they're doing today, now that using their art to overcome their mental health issues or whatever it is. Just those little short stories, a mission moment at the start of a board meeting can really rev people up and bring them centered to the mission as well. And that's a story that they can tell to excite people.
Yeah, I think for our organization that's a good idea for us to do some kind of a talking point. But I think I wrote a big word on top of my notebook page that said focus. We don't, as an organization, I don't feel speaking for Wyoming area creative arts community, we don't pursue those opportunities, which actually are great opportunities to bring people into the organization, not just their money. And I think as Jess alluded to, we keep a database, but we should also understand who wants to donate to us, why, who is the people that we want to cultivate, because I don't think we really purposefully do a lot of that either. So I think that's something that some good insights you brought.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Raya, how do you think, are you getting something out of this that could help Roxy's Hope? Roxy's Hope is a domestic abuse. They try to get women back.
Nice. Very cool.
Actually, it's a good reminder of the best way I can say it is Roxy taught me a lot. And so everything you're saying is a wonderful reminder of things. And that was my question that I posed to you. So we're strictly a fundraising board. We don't provide services. We don't have any staff. So I'm always trying to find new ways to inspire my board. I'm the director, the chair, and I'm a fundraiser by trade. It comes easy to me. I love doing it. I don't mind asking. Worst I can hear is no. And but not everyone on the board is like that. So I often let them know that, hey, you make the connection with me. And like you said, giving me that connection is worth more than getting me $50 from someone, because then I can help cultivate that. So this is all a wonderful reminder. And I'm just looking for more ways for me and my role and our board to inspire everyone to do some sort of fundraising, whether it's making the connections, bringing in the money, or donating their own money. So that's what I'm really looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I just saw your question. I'm not keeping an eye on the chat, just so you know. So if feel free to speak up if I'm not. So yeah, your question about a higher level explanation of different types of boards, advisory, governance, fundraising boards. So there are different types of boards, and cracks me up that some say, well, we're a working board. Well, every board's working, but
Right.
but there's boards that are governance, which are really high level and not into the operations. And then there's operating boards that are really, because there aren't enough staff to do all the work. And like Hallberg Center for the Arts, right? The board does, you have your one staff person.
And that's Nathan here.
Yeah. So Nathan, you can do it all now, right? So not a problem. Yeah, so by necessity, a lot of small nonprofits have operating boards where they've got to be involved in actually making program decisions and that kind of stuff. What's one of the things, so when I was at the San Diego Food Bank, we had our governing board. We also had our leadership council, which it's a nice way to get more people involved on a higher level. We had a leadership council, which their people paid like a fee to be a member of the leadership council, $100 a year, whatever it was. They paid a membership fee, but it was a great networking opportunity, and it really served as a feeder for the actual board, which is also really helpful because you get to see people in action and see who's taking leadership and that kind of stuff. So when you do have an opening on your board, here you've got people who have already been taking leadership role in doing things. So in the case of the food bank, the leadership council had, I don't know, half a dozen different committees. And so people would join the leadership council and choose which committee or committees they wanted to serve on. And so it might be for the Blues Fest, so different events, or it might be, I had my corporate committee, which is that Talking Points was for my corporate committee. And so they were totally focused on making introductions. That's their whole job. It was a dynamo committee. They were such heavy hitters, and that became a very strong feeder for the actual governing board of directors. And people knew that this was like, if I shine here, I could get on this board of directors, and that was a big deal. And we had other committees as well. But so that's a neat way to do it too. If you have the bandwidth to create some other a leadership council, use the same term, right? And so if people are thinking, well, I'd like to get experience on that capacity, I'm not quite ready for a board, it's kind of a stepping stone, or they want to volunteer, and that's one way they can do it. It's also a great way for them to network with other like-minded people in the community without having the responsibility of a board member, which can be a lot of responsibility. So we would get the full leadership council together, I think like quarterly, and we would have a networking session and maybe an overview on the latest, so everybody would be up to date on what was happening at the food bank overall. So they were true insiders, which was really important to them. And then they would work with their committees. And so there's lots of different ways to get more people engaged that help to feed that. Ray, am I hitting on anything with you?
Yeah, actually, I like that idea of the leadership council because we have a very large board for being brand new. We have 9 people. However, we have several other people that are very committed volunteers that have the connections in the community. I just met with one of them yesterday for lunch, and they don't want to be on the board, but they will meet with me. They will come to every one of our events. I can actually call them and say, who are your connections? I need to do some fundraising in this area. So I actually like that idea of giving that a name. So I was making notes.
Formalize it. Yeah, that'd be cool, and then you can let that person maybe wants to head up the leadership council or something, or co-lead it with somebody, and generate a bunch of people that are your advocates out there. So cool. That's
Thank you for that idea. That's great.
You are so welcome. All right. Let's go on to the next section, which this won't take long, but I wanted to run through the different types of funders. And so we all know foundations, that's where you're writing grant proposals to. They're created to give away money. So we don't want to be afraid to call them or email them and say, we're thinking about this. What do you think? Do you think that will resonate with your board? They're there to give away money. They don't want to waste their time reading a proposal that doesn't fall in line with them. They're our partners. And so there are some that you just have to read the directions, follow them as closely as you can. But when you have the opportunity to visit, to call, to email with them, do it. They want those connections. There's an example when I was working with the National Hunger Relief Organization, and I would travel all around and meet with donors and work on behalf of our regional offices. And I was in Atlanta, and so I was looking up some of the foundations that were there, and I got a meeting with a foundation that we had not had a relationship with. Got a meeting with her and just introduced her to our organization and told her what we did. It felt like a fit. That's why I set up a meeting with her. And I was able to ask her, I go, do you think your board would entertain a proposal from us? And she said, yeah. She goes, I really think they'd be interested in this for the Florida, Georgia region. And I said, well, how much should we apply for? She said 10,000. I'm like, that's awesome. I will have our regional office prepare a proposal, and you can expect that. So I called Barbara at the regional office, and she looked it up and she submitted a proposal. A week after the deadline, I get a call from the woman I met with in Atlanta, and she said, Liz, weren't you guys going to submit a proposal? I haven't gotten it. And I said, really? I said, I checked with Barbara, and she said, yeah, I mailed it. And she goes, oh, we can't accept them via mail anymore. It has to come through this portal. And, Barbara had done the research or whatever, and I didn't get it. But this woman said, go ahead and send it through. I'll make sure it gets through. If I hadn't met with her, she would have never known. This grant proposal that Barbara spent a lot of time on would have just floated off into nowhere. But instead, she not only made sure we got it, but we did get funded. And so those relationships are what it's all about. It goes back to the first thing I talked about. It's building those relationships, and it's building that partnership. And then it was taking care of it, making sure she got extra reports, and that I connected with her the next time I was in Atlanta. So they're created to give money away. They want to do it and they want to help you do a good job. So making those connections is really important. Corporations, and I know there were several questions about corporations and we'll hit on some of them later too, but they're created not to give away money, but to make money. So this is a different beast, right? And they are looking for an ROI more and more so. Like 25 years ago, more corporations had a philanthropic fund and they would just give and they weren't looking for a lot of visibility. But that has morphed and now they're really looking for visibility in exchange. The vast majority of them are. And so you've heard probably of corporate social responsibility plans. More and more companies are creating a corporate social or CSR plan, a corporate social responsibility plan. And what that is how are we as a company being a good citizen? And it doesn't have to incorporate anything to do with charity at all. There's a lot of corporate social responsibility plans that don't have anything to do with giving away anything to charity, but it might have to do with being green, taking care of the environment, employment practices, that kind of stuff. But understanding what their CSR plan is helps to frame that conversation. So looking at a corporation, understanding what their CSR plan is, because even though their CSR plan might not say anything about giving money to charity, doesn't mean they're not going to give to charity. I'm trying to think of what the company is. There's a company here, doesn't matter who it is. It's a company here in San Diego that has a really robust CSR plan and they really rally around that. Some companies have a CSR plan just to say they have a CSR plan and it's back here. But this particular company has a really robust one. And it doesn't, from reading it, you wouldn't know it has anything to do with their product. So one of the mistakes we make is just looking at a product and thinking, oh, their product has to do with what we're doing, but not necessarily. So looking at the CSR plan, it's WD-40 is the company I'm thinking of. I don't know who, I suppose if you're in construction or if you work on cars or something, you'd think, well, that's what WD-40 would be interested in. But if you look at their CSR plan, it's much more robust and it's about relationships and all of that, and really building a strategic, better community, which you wouldn't expect just from looking at their products. So really digging into doing research, Googling, and finding out what a company's CSR plan is. What, Eric?
How do you find out about a company's CSR plan? You
can Google, for starters. A lot of them have their information online, especially the bigger ones. You can just search, go to their website, either Google 3M, corporate social responsibility. You might do CSR, they might have it abbreviated, or you can go to the 3M website and search their website for corporate social responsibility or just social responsibility. And they might have some other words for it, but doing some digging. But you could also talk to a contact there and say, do you have a CSR plan? Do you have a corporate social responsibility plan? I'd love to see it. Usually they're very happy to share it because that is how they're showing that they're good corporate partners in the community. They're good community partners. And so if they've created one, they usually want it to be known because that's what they're standing for, and what they're looking at. So looking at that, we'll talk a little bit more. We'll go in more depth on corporate relationships, but now a lot of companies are doing their charitable giving through their marketing department because they want visibility. So they see it as a marketing expense, not a philanthropic expense. Others have a foundation or a philanthropic department. And so they probably, just because they're part of a corporation, they probably still want that visibility. So you always want to offer that. And occasionally there's companies that have both. It just happened the other day, my corporate relations officer came in and she goes, so I understand this company has both. And I go, well, ask your contact, should you ask for, and they sent the links for both. Like, here's if you want to sponsor an event, if you want a sponsorship of an event, and here's if you want a grant. Ask your contact. I said, if it would be seen as greedy if we ask for both, or if those are two completely separate pots of money that are totally legit to go for both. So I'm getting in a little deeper than I planned to here, but again, remember that corporations were made to make money. So we want to help them make money. And by highlighting their partnership with your, aligning their business with your nonprofit, how will that help them make money? Be thinking about that. Government is all about accountability, right? And so when you write a government grant, if anybody here, have you guys gotten government grants? It's a lot of,
majority of what we've gotten is government.
yeah. So the accountability, you know, just filling out the applications are much more complicated. But also you have to look at how much reporting is required and how much time it's going to take. And I always ask, is the juice worth the squeeze? You got to make sure that, you know, yeah, it's $50,000, but we're going to spend $65,000 in our time accounting for it. You really have to look at that, because government should be all about accountability, right? And then there's individuals, which sadly I put them last because I wanted to spend a minute talking about them, but individuals really should be the first thing on our minds. So foundations don't want to fund us forever. Most foundations typically want to fund for a year, 2 or 3, and then move on to a new project. Corporations can change based on their leadership. Corporations change direction. Their corporate social responsibility plan may change. Their board of directors says we're going in a different direction. And even though they love everything about you and you've taken good care of them, you're cut free because you don't fit within their guidelines anymore. But individuals, well, and government changes, right, all the time. So that's a given. But individuals, if we take good care of them and they feel like they are part of the family and they are part of this organization, they're going to stick with us forever and ever and ever. And we can't discount that. And if you combine all of the giving, yeah, we see the big, you know, the big corporate gifts and the big foundation and the big government grants. But actually, I don't know, it's over 90% of money given to charities every year in this country is from individuals, either outright or through planned gifts in their will or their estate. So why aren't we focusing 90% of our energy on individuals and taking care of them? They're not going to leave us if we take good care of them. And so we want to make sure and focus on them. They're going to follow their passions. And as long as we stay in line with that, it's going to be good. So don't discount those individuals. And there's a book that was written, oh gosh, 25 years ago, probably now, but it was called The Millionaire Next Door. I highly recommend it. It doesn't take long to read it, but it's research that was done on millionaires. You can't look at somebody and know that they have money just because they live in a McMansion, just because they drive a fancy car, they're driving a Tesla and they're doing all that. Those people have spent their money on those fancy things. The millionaire next door is wearing grubby old jeans and driving their old Buick from 1989. There's a reason they're millionaires. They're not spending their money willy-nilly. So you can't just look at people and know they have money. So who should donors give to? Who do you think donors should give to? It's a trick question. Nathan, they should definitely give to you for sure. Actually, this really bothers me when people say, oh, you know, 3M, they're whatever company, they're right here in our backyard. They should give to us because they're in Minneapolis and St. Paul area. They should give to us. No, nobody should give to anybody. Okay. It's our job to inspire them. It's our job to take care of them. It's their money. They can give to whomever they want. They can choose not to give. It's their money. So it's our job to inspire them to see the difference they can make by investing and being a partner with us. And that expectation that, you know, they have all that money, they should give it away. They earned that money, however they earned it, and it's theirs to keep. Years ago, I was doing grant research, and I know, it was when I worked for a hospice organization. You guys probably think I never keep a job as I'm listing up all these places, but I worked for a hospice organization for 12 years in Wisconsin. And I was doing some research for a grant funder, and I ran across Newman's Own, which we all know, Newman's Own salad dressing, Paul Newman, right? And at a glance, looking at what the requirements are, what they were interested in at that time. This may have changed. I haven't done research into them in many years. But at that time, everything looked like, oh my gosh, this could be perfect. What we do, and I don't remember which part of our program it was, but it might have been grief support or whatever it was. But I was like, this is going to be great because they give big grants and it's going to be great. And I would have spent a lot of time. But I went to their 990, and hopefully anybody who is doing grant writing is familiar with 990s. If not, let me know and we'll find another time to talk about 990s. But digging into that and looking, I looked at who they'd given funding to on their most recent 990, and everybody has a different form. It's in their tax form, but everybody's chart looks different. And I noticed this little column on the side that said either AU or NZ. And I'm like, what is that? And here they give 50,000 here and 500,000 there and 20,000 here, whatever it was. But there was all these AU or NZ. Well, they only gave to nonprofits in New Zealand or Australia for whatever reason. And some people, when I shared that, they're like, well, that's wrong. That's just wrong. And I go, no, it's not. It's their money. They can give it to whomever they choose. But it's my job to find out if we're likely to get it. Well, Wisconsin is not in New Zealand or Australia. So thank goodness I found that out and did not take the time to write an application. But anyway, again, nobody should be giving to anybody. It's our job. So on that section, any questions or thoughts? All right, let's keep on moving. So this one I love. It's really identifying our organization's affinity markers, and that's what I call them. And so I'd alluded to this a little bit ago. Affinity markers are what I call the things that people might have an affinity for that resonate with, that our mission will resonate with them, okay? So I'll give you an example. Well, here, I'm going to take you through a couple of, so when I worked for the food bank, obviously people thought, oh, people who are interested in hunger relief will give to the food bank. That's clear. But there's so many more things that we were able to bring donors in, that not that people didn't care about hunger, but not everybody wants to fund that, right? That's not the thing that speaks to them. So we broke it down into the different populations, right? So the number of homeless people, and children, families, seniors, college students. There were different donors that resonated with each of these, that each of these populations resonated with. Some people only cared about the programs for children. Some people really only cared about the programs for seniors. So making sure that we were talking about what was important to them and helping them connect with that. Malnutrition was something that surprised a lot of people. People didn't care so much about the hunger part of it, but the malnutrition, that people are subsisting on crappy food, and that the food bank was able to get them fresh fruits and veggies, that ignited a lot of interest. Education, realizing that, somebody who's really about, I'm all about education. I give to schools, I give to programs that educate people. Well, you know what? Kids can't learn if they're hungry. And so honing that message to those people and helping them see that by getting kids nutritious food, they could sleep at night, they could pay attention to school in the day, during the daytime, and that they could get a good education. All of a sudden it was like, oh, we are interested in this. So we were able to bring in donors who at a glance had not been interested in what we were doing, but once we brought them in deeper. For the San Diego Food Bank is extremely green. It's a LEED certified building. Nothing went to waste, and had all these different programs, solar panels on the roof, all of these different things. There was a donor that had been giving small amounts, small for these donors, under $1,000 a year to the food bank for several years. But I listened to NPR, and they were a big donor to NPR, and it said that this couple was interested in programs, blah, 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 and the environment. And I'm like, oh my gosh, when we have an opportunity around the environment, I'm going to call them and invite them. And we had a press conference when we got our LEED certification. And I called up this donor and invited her, and didn't know if she goes, well, I'll see if I'll show up. And so I was at the press conference, and she came in and was just blown away by the whole, all of the, I gave her a tour of the 90,000 square foot warehouse, showed her all of the environmentally friendly things that we were doing. And she became $10,000 a year because of that. She was just thinking of hunger. She wasn't thinking about all that other stuff. Technology was another thing that people didn't realize, all the high-tech stuff that was happening behind the scenes. And so engaging companies and individuals that were really interested in all these new ways of using technology got ignited about the food bank. So these are all the affinity markers, not just hunger, but looking deeper. And so I want you all to be thinking about your own organizations and what those different affinity markers are. I'll quickly just show, I'm not going to go through all of these with Girl Scouts, but of course people think of youth programming, right? But look at all these other affinity markers. So we can go into a grant database and we can search for political, economic, social, when it comes to women's empowerment. All these different things are keywords that we can search for, and keywords that we can listen for when we're talking with people, that's something they're interested in. So let's tell them about those programs that we're doing. So think about the arts, okay? We think about creativity, academic improvement, right? Multicultural understanding, social bonds that happen through that creative process. The whole innovative capacity and how the arts help continue to build that innovative capacity. Emotional development and enrichment, mental health, physical well-being, spiritual health, and pleasure. And you think about so one piece of this, so there's a funder out there that only cares about mental health. We'll help them learn why the arts are important to improve people's mental health and focus just on that mental health part. That affinity marker is where they're at. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So we want to engage prospective funders to see beyond their assumptions. This is something I see in every single nonprofit. People think they know what you do. People think, oh, you're an art gallery. Cool. And you have to help them see all the different things and the depth of that mission. You take care of dogs, you train dogs, whatever your mission is, whatever their assumptions are. So for Girl Scouts, I told you, the assumption is that people think, and Girl Scouts has been around for 110 years. So we've all had Girl Scouts around us all our lives. We have assumptions about what it means to be a Girl Scout. People think it's a nice to have after school program. We are changing girls' lives. We're changing the trajectory of girls' lives. And so when I have the opportunity to speak to a group, I hit them with that right away. And I make sure that they understand how, and I share stories of how we're changing girls' lives every single day with our mission, and that it's much more than a nice to have after school program. And what that cookies is not about the cookies, it's about teaching girls entrepreneurial skills. And I tell them stories about how now very successful women, hello puppy, very successful women got their start as a very shy little girl, terrified to go up to a door and sell a box of cookies. And now they are a powerhouse VP of sales for a major company, right? But it's helping them see the difference that Girl Scouts makes in those lives. And so really looking beyond those assumptions is in helping walking them beyond those assumptions is really, really key. Any questions or thoughts on that whole section on the affinity markers?
I think that I breaking it down into different levels like that. It's one thing, I was able to fundraise for the arts organization just through my enthusiasm. But I never thought about physically breaking it down to target different, you know, individuals or businesses like that. So
Yeah, and it's, yeah, and so like when you're talking to a prospective donor or a donor, and you know that kids aren't their things, they're not going to give to the kids programs. Don't waste your breath talking about what's happening with kids unless they bring it up. If you know that they're focused on seniors, or they're only focused on whatever it is that they're focused on, that's where you want to make sure that you're spending the majority of your time. Not that you can't introduce them to some other things, but help them really focus on that. All right. Let's see. So I moved my mouse. So now this, let's talk about cultivating those win-win relationships with corporate partners. We talked about this a bit, understanding their corporate social responsibility plan. It really tells you what their values are at a core. WD-40, to talk to the CEO of WD-40, you would think that you wouldn't know that that's the business they're in, that whatever, the lubricant business or whatever it is, but how they want to make a difference in the world and who is their target audience, right? So thinking about who is their target audience? Yes, that target audience has to do with their product. So how many of those people in their target audience are you hitting? And figuring out where you can bring those two together. And do you offer that opportunity to make the difference in the world that they want to make? Can that happen through your program? And then we talked a little bit about this, which pot of money are they giving from? So the philanthropic, if they've got a foundation or they've got a philanthropic fund, that tends to be more altruistic. They're not usually looking for the big, their logo on everything. They may be, so you just be ready for that. And marketing is very much focused on visibility. And so you want to think about all the ways that you can provide visibility without breaking the bank. Thank God we have social media, because we can do that, right? We can do lots of social media visibility. And beyond just putting their logo up and saying, you know, thank you for giving, we want to tell stories about their connection. We had a wonderful story that came up here with Girl Scouts. There's a credit union here, Mission Federal Credit Union, that's been just a tremendous partner to us for a long time. And we were on a meeting, and one of their reps shared that she had made a connection with one of our older girls who's now in college. Last year at our Cool Women event, which is coming up day after tomorrow, she had met on a virtual event. And the girl was really excited because she was interested in potentially pursuing a job in public relations. She was a senior in high school. And this young woman, her job is public relations. And so they were very excited. They didn't have much time to talk, but they exchanged contact information. And the Girl Scout reached out to her right after, and they set up time to talk. And they really developed a real strong mentor relationship. And now the young woman the girl is in college in Boston, and they continue to talk all the time. And when she was home at the Christmas holidays, they got together and had lunch. So I heard about this. So rather than just saying, thank you, Mission Fed, for all of your support, we did a feature story about Courtney and this young woman, Aisha, and had pictures of them and talked about the power of that relationship. And it really spoke to the involvement of Mission Fed with Girl Scouts, and they were thrilled with it and share it everywhere. And so, and in fact, since then, that was just a month and a half ago that story ran. Mission Fed had media opportunities where they're doing news bits on the television news, and they decided to feature us. So it came back to us. And they also had an ad in the Giving Back magazine, which is a charitable magazine that all the society people read here. They featured us and our relationship with them in that. So we gave them one, they gave us two, and it's just this beautiful, we're happy to give whatever we can to them. So looking at opportunities like that you can give, that will give the company visibility in whatever way you can is a great thing. And companies aren't all looking for the same thing. And that was one of the questions I think that came forth before I did this. They might be looking for opportunities for their team of staff to volunteer. That's becoming a much, much bigger thing. Companies want their teams of staff to be bonded and feel connected to the community. So having an opportunity for a group of their staff to come and volunteer is really meaningful and really powerful. So ask them if you have group opportunities, ask if that's something they're interested in. They may have in-kind products or services that they want to provide. Explore that with them. You know, if you're looking, you need some financial advice, maybe they have somebody in their finance department that could give you in-kind support so many hours a month or whatever. Or they have, you know, they'll donate whatever kind of product they have that is of use to you. They may be looking for a board position. A lot of companies really like that. And so exploring that. We're in conversations with the San Diego Padres, and they give away a lot of money, but their money only goes to those that they have executives on the board. So we're working on getting somebody on the board, and they have identified somebody. She's not available for a couple of years, but we're bringing her under our wing, and we're taking good care of her, and they're already excited about that. So that's something nice to be able to offer if it fits with your organization. Cause-related marketing is where they use your partnership, and so one of the classics, right, is I don't even know if they still do it. Big G, General Mills box tops for education, or the Campbell's soup labels, classic cause-related marketing, right? They're using your cause to sell their products, but then you get a portion of that. So looking at those kinds of opportunities, and then all the different ways that you can provide visibility, whether it's through your earned media, media partnerships that you have. If you're getting some PSAs, how can you promote your partnerships with your corporate sponsors? Social media, we talked about. A lot of companies are looking for click-throughs. They want to see traffic driving to their own websites, and so trying to find ways to drive that. And then they may want to just have visibility with your membership, depending on what it is that they're looking for. So finding ways for them to have that visibility in your newsletters or whatever, or just in general, do they just want to be seen as a strong community partner, and ways that you can make sure that they see that, whether it's through newspaper advertising or banners out in front of the center or whatever it is, helping them do that. So some will be looking for just one of these things. Some will be looking for all of the above, but you need to have kind of a menu in your head on what you can and cannot provide. Don't promise things if it's going to kill you to get it done. And always remembering, right, that the relationships are two-sided. So we don't want to just be getting for us. We want to make sure that they're getting what they want. Even with the corporations, we're going through this exact same process. So there's those that you meet at a networking event. You've met somebody from there and you want to find out, you know, what's their corporate social responsibility plan? Oh, it looks like it might be a match, and digging in deeper and deeper. And it might, a lot of times it starts with a volunteer activity, something where they're not laying out money, but they're getting their toes wet by giving you some in-kind donations or volunteering, and seeing if this feels like a relationship they want to be a part of. And so they're testing that out. And so they're going to, as they get to trust and they see that you're going to take good care of them, that you are stewarding them well, that you're giving them more than they expect, they're going to get deeper and deeper. We had, a few years ago, when I first started here with Girl Scouts, we met with a company that was introduced to us because one of their staff used to work for us. And we went and met with them, and they were real excited. They liked the idea of bringing girls they're an alternative, they're a solve renewable energy. They do solar fields, not home solar. And they are really interested in empowering girls and women getting into STEM fields. So it was a really good match. And at the table, they committed to $10,000. So we were stoked, because that's a big one for a first-time sponsor for us. And so they said what they were interested in. And within a couple months, they said, you know what, we're so thrilled with what you guys are doing for us. We're gonna give you another 10 because we're really excited about it. So it was like, oh my gosh. So in the first year, they gave us 20,000. The next year, they upped it to 25,000. And then this year, at the start of the year, we had a new corporate relations officer who is just killer and just knows how to take care of people. And we met with them and they said, yeah, just assume we'll do the exact same as last year. So we're stoked about that, right? Another 25,000. 2 weeks later, I kid you not, 2 weeks later, first thing, Desiree, my staff member, sends me an email first thing in the morning. She goes, look at this email. They doubled and they said, we're going to double it. We're going to do 50 this year. And I told her that's because they see you're already following up immediately. You're already immediately after the meeting. She recanted everything that we had talked about, made sure they understood everything. And got back to them. She sent them thank you notes. She did all of that. So 2 weeks later, they doubled it to $50,000. And then we partnered. They're doing some volunteer work. They're creating some programs for girls, not just giving us money, but actually volunteering with the girls. And we went to do a tour of their amazing facility. And they let us know they're giving us another $10,000 to support our work in Imperial Valley because that's a more impoverished area. So $60,000. And you guys, it's all because they feel this partnership. We keep them on, we've got a hotline to them. We tell them everything that's going on. We engage them in everything we can. And it's just working beautifully. So these, let's just stop for a second. These were the questions that were emailed to me and I want to hit those, but are there any other thoughts or questions before we run through those?
No.
All right. So first question, how do we create an ongoing self-sustaining fundraising campaign for general operations? Well, it's not going to be self-sustaining because it's going to take relationships and taking care of people. But I think that making sure starting a monthly donor program is a great way to do that, because if think about that, a monthly donor program means that people are giving automatically through their credit card or automatic bank withdrawal. So they don't have to think about it. You know, I give my $25 a month to the local NPR station. I honestly don't even think about it. I see it on my statement, but that's it. I don't think about the fact that it's $300 a year. Whereas if I was going to write a check, it wouldn't be $300 a year, right? So setting up a monthly donor program that they don't have to think about it, and letting them know what they're doing, the difference they're making. And even you can create a society. Here at Girl Scouts, our monthly giving program is called Daisy's Circle, because Juliet Gordon Lowe, whose nickname was Daisy, was the founder of Girl Scouts. So Daisy's Circle is our monthly donor program. And I think the minimum is $10 a month that people can do to do that, but that's $120 a year. And monthly donors typically give more per year than they would otherwise. And those people they can stop whenever they want. Of course, they're not obligated. If they decide they need to cancel or change it, they always can, but they're less likely to. And those people that continue to give year after year like that are much more likely to include you in their will or their estate plans, and let them know the impact that they're going to make. So, you know, $25 a month will mean that 5 children can participate in arts programs. $100 a month will provide housing for a woman and her family for 5 nights or whatever the benchmark is, but make it real, make it tangible for them so they can see the difference. I've had donors call, and if they're giving $25 a month, I'm just a little donor. I'm insignificant, but I have a question I'm wondering if you can help me with. And I look up and I'm like, they're giving $25 a month. They're giving $300 a year. And I say, do you know that $25 every month you are providing a year of Girl Scouting to a girl? It costs $25 a year for a girl for membership. And with your $25, so that means 12 girls every year, a whole troop every year is funded because of you. And it's like, oh my gosh, I could just hear them sitting up straighter and feeling proud about that and helping people not discount. I don't care if it's $5. I don't care if it's $1. You thank them the exact same way and you help them see the impact that they have. So creating an ongoing self-sustaining fundraising campaign for general operations. I mean, this is one way to do it, but it still requires some stewardship. Typically with monthly donors, you're not sending a monthly letter because that kind of negates the purpose of that. You let them know you won't, unless they want it every month, a letter every month, you're just going to send them an annual statement. But let them know, that maybe you'll have a reception, invite them to a special reception or do something, have a special newsletter that's just for monthly donors. Make sure they feel special because those are really important. They're evergreen, right? Next question, do we need to have and or refer to an ongoing financial target? Well, I mean, from a financial perspective, you have your budget. So you have your financial target. From sharing that outright, you don't necessarily have to share your total budget goal outright, but for projects, it's really helpful. So let's say you're working on redoing a room, or you have a project that you want to fund. Helping people understand how much it's going to cost in total helps them understand the impact that they're going to have on it. So a donor who maybe likes to have a big impact, but not the biggest impact, if they don't know that this is a $100,000 project and they're thinking it's a $10,000 project, they may only give 1,000. But if they realize that it's a $100,000 project, they'll probably give at a bigger level. So it helps them with the perspective on what the ultimate goal is. But of course, you need to know how much you need to earn every year. Is it necessary to have a set improvement project for the Arts Center capital projects? I think it's necessary. I like to just always have a menu of options because you don't know what the person you're talking to is going to be interested in funding. And there are some funders who really are interested in capital projects. And so understanding the ballpark on what that is, I have an Excel sheet, and anything I hear that is a big project, whether it's capital or just a major program, I have the ballpark budget number in my head. So like we'll find out that, we're talking to this donor and they're going to give between 30 and 50,000. We'll look down this list and we'll find things that we can tell them about that would fit within that price range. So having that ready is a whole lot easier than having to create it and think about it on the spur of the moment. So, and that's for everything, like thinking about sponsorship levels. That's one of the bottom questions. Having the sponsorship ideas levels kind of sketched out, so you kind of know all the different areas. So they say they're going to give $5,000. Well, they could be a sponsor, but top sponsor for this, or they could be a lower level sponsor for that, or they could pay for the accessibility ramp, or they could do whatever. You have all these different, if you have a whole menu of ideas, you're never going to show them that menu. You're simply going to have those as talking points. You may pull some of those out and put them in a proposal for them to consider and for talking through. Let's see. Next question is, what are the motivations for an individual or business to donate or sponsor a monthly exhibit at a regional arts center? Who are they most likely to be, and what is their why? That's all about that conversation you're going to have. Everybody's different. There isn't any one. So I think we covered that in all of that. The current tiered sponsorship structure work for us today? I think that's your guys' question to ask. Are the levels appropriate, meaningful for current needs? I think if you're getting sponsors to fund at those levels and you feel like maybe there's money being left on the table, you could elevate that. If you're not getting sponsors, maybe looking at what you could provide, and even asking sponsors, what would it take for you to go to the next level? What do we need? What kind of visibility? What are you looking for? Or what do you think other companies might be looking for? And finding out if those numbers, are they looking, well, we only sponsor at that level if we're reaching 500 people at a time or whatever. Finding out what it is that they're looking for. Jess, if you could mute, that would be great. Or Eric, let's see if we can mute. Oh, there you go.
That'll keep her quiet, Eric.
You got the power.
Well, let's
So-
like just touch on a lot of these questions are like ones I wrote up, Liz, because of
Oh, cool.
coming in new to the organization 3 years ago. And I was like, speaking of this, as an organization, I apologize for the others that aren't part of what we're doing, right, direct with the Art Center, but our motivations and our why and a lot of the, self-sustaining right now, we really only ask for, aside from grants, I don't want to take away from the hard work that our grant people do, because that's really what's funding us a lot. But we have once a month, you can spend $1,000 on a show just to represent a show as a sponsor. Then other than that, we just kind of have a donation box out, other than, you get your yearly membership. So I'm thinking, looking at trying to take a step away, looking at our tiered I could see how the tiered structure worked when Eric, when you first became an LLC and we're trying to get, funding for the building. We had a big project. And that's why some of my questions are around that. Do we need to have, as an organization, I think it's more internal. I don't think we really have a drive, but what do we need to do? We're just, I think through the pandemic and everything, I think partially Eric and Carla moving to Florida, we're just kind of, we're doing great work. I don't want to downplay that, but we're kind of dog paddling a little bit right now. So I guess that's what I'm looking at is, if we get an influx of money, how are we going to use it? What are we going to do? What can we ask for? And I really like the idea of a monthly donor program, and just even thinking a little bit out of the box. What if we have artists on what if we did a new campaign, for example, for monthly funding, and you get for signing up, you get a print. And we have,
cool.
like you see them doing record giveaways for, sign up for this oldies, thing, and you get a Beatles record or whatever, But so those are the kind of things that I guess we probably internally need to look at the Wyoming Area Creative Arts community. But so that's the genesis of some of these questions. So
I love it. I know these are great questions. And I love that you're even thinking about them. I think that speaks volumes. And, I love the idea of, featuring an artist and, that make a donation of this level or whatever, and you'll get a limited edition signed print by a local artist, whoever it is. And, or a meet and greet with the artist, right? I don't know if you guys do that, like before your art shows for donors, have a special reception. The first night is only for donors that give at a certain level, and they get to have time with the artists that are on display. And what a cool opportunity, but you only get that if you're a donor at this higher level, whatever it is. And it could be that, if it's, I'm trying to do the math here in my head. So if you're $50 a month, right, that's $600 a year. If you sign up to be a monthly donor at $50 a month, then you'll be invited to the, the June opening, the next opening, and any donors that are giving. So that's or if they give $600 one time, right? Think about that, whatever level you choose, I think, and that's what, those experiences are things that you can't just go out and buy. And you've got all these amazing creative, like you do the musicians and you have their performances. Well, what if it was people pay good money for showing up an hour early for a concert, so they get a private showing and they get to ask questions of the artists. That might be something that your supporters would like as well. And it might be just an added ticket, or it could be a donor benefit, which is kind of nice, because then people are like, oh, they need donors. A lot of people don't realize, a lot of nonprofits actually, we need donations. They don't necessarily get that. So it reminds them of that. And engaging, pulling in that, that donor wall behind your front desk, engaging all of them to come back and see what's happened, right? look at all that's happened since you helped us open these doors. We're having a special reception and we'd like you all to come. Just all these different opportunities, and it's not going to cost them anything, right? They helped they helped create the center, and now you want to share. So how many years has it been since you guys got the building?
It's been, we got it in 15, so it's been 7 years since we got the building.
Yeah, you know, so lucky
7 in July.
Lucky 7 in 7/7. Do it on and serve 7 and 7. No, but do
like that.
you know, it's 7 years on July 7th or something like that. But you know, have something like that. Just you don't want to wait for a 10-year anniversary, right? So and show them everything that's happened. You know, we're coming out of the pandemic, and look at all the great things, the improvements that have made, and you know, maybe do a slideshow showing, you know, do a PowerPoint that shows all the different things, the shows and the performances and things like that that have happened, and have a reception that is it's for the people that gave to the capital campaign, but then maybe all your donors that have given, just invite them all back to see all that's happened, and have a special night where they can do that. So you got to get all those donors engaged. I'll be looking for my invitation. I'm on that wall.
Nathan,
yeah.
you got that?
He's on it.
Liz, do you care
It's
if I share my screen for a moment?
Oh, not at all. Let me stop sharing. Let me yeah, I didn't have anything else on mine anyway. We're good.
Okay. Here's our very first donor plaque. Look whose name is on it there. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Somebody, even she gets drug in by a good hook. So,
I wanted you guys to meet that. What?
Did you get a thank you note? Probably not.
No, I feel like I did. No, I feel like I did. I got a letter. Yeah.
I think we wrote thank you notes out for, we have people on this one were the ones that helped us buy the building. So,
yeah. So yeah, you know, I mean, there's just some opportunities to re-engage donors who haven't given, and give credit to the people that have helped make that, you know, and of course, yeah, anyway, I think there's just a lot of really fun opportunities just to have people have experience and give them, you made this happen. I think that's really important, that they understand that it wouldn't have happened without them, and making sure that they feel that. So.
Should check and see if Rebecca or Julie have any specifics.
Julie or Rebecca, do you guys have any questions? You're a little delayed.
It's all right.
I don't know if they're, Julie, are you still there? She's trying to unmute.
Hey guys, this is Christine. I don't know if it still shows up on the meeting, but
Yeah,
I had
we
to
can
drop
hear
off the video portion a while ago. Okay, so one question that I have that I don't recall being something that you mentioned, and I'm curious if you have ideas on success of it. But of course, we have this whole mailing list of people who have donated us in the past. At least I assume we have a mailing list of that, but literally sending them a letter saying, hey, you know, here's a donation envelope. We'd love for you to donate again. Is that cheesy or is that successful?
Well, I think if they haven't donated in a while, you want to warm up to them a little bit, right? So it's not cheesy to ask for them to donate again, but I think maybe doing some stewardship first and then getting them engaged and asking them to give. You always want to have a way for them to give if they're motivated, but just asking them to give without warming up to them is probably not going to be as fruitful. So, you know, you can always direct them to the website where there's a donate link or whatever. So does that make sense?
No, that totally makes sense. And then the other thing, since forgive me, I'm driving at the moment. But the other thing I thought of that, Breeze, maybe you could add to your list, and I don't know exactly how our finances work out for donations versus classes, but even, you know, sign up to be a monthly donor and you'll get a voucher annually for a free class, for a free art class.
I love that.
So
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, Christine, because then it gets people in your doors and it gets them more engaged.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
that's.
If I waited to throw it out until we spoke on Friday, it might fall out of my brain, so I just throw it out there.
No, it's a good idea. We talked about that actually, even for a sponsor. If you give $1,000 sponsorship, you can have a team workshop where you can come and have a paint class or something. The only issue we have right now, and that's just right now, Christine, is with limited teaching, with tree kind of cutting back in hours and stuff, and that's a whole different issue. But getting more instructors and getting more things set up with that. But I agree with you. I think it's let's use our levers that are strong, and it's we do create, we reach to the community, we help with kids, we have classes, but that's the things I kind of had notes about. What is our mission really, and do we need to get a drive behind us again on some of those things? And I think there's bigger questions for our organization we need to underline to get to this. But anyway,
I love that, and I think too, I mean, I'm just guessing, but getting people through the door and experiencing a class, once they're in there and they see how cool it is and how fun it is to just have fun painting, and you don't have to be an expert, right? That they're more likely to come back again. So if you can get them in the door and having some fun there, that it's whatever you can do to drive that, I think will be helpful in the long run. And having lunch with Nathan, right? That's a great thing though, to have lunch with the executive director. So another thing, and it could be, if you're giving at whatever level you choose. If you're giving at this level, we invite you to have quarterly coffee with the executive director or monthly coffee with the executive director. And it's a group thing, right? And so you might have one person show up, you might have 10 people show up. So you meet downstairs in the classroom, right? And it's coffee and donuts, and you're just no agenda. You're just there to answer any questions they have, get their ideas, all of that, get to know them. And you're not asking them for anything. You're just answering their questions because they're insiders, and then they leave. And people really love even just being invited. Even if they don't take it, they feel special because you're not asking them for money, you're giving them something. You're not always putting your hand out asking for money, you're inviting them to do something. And so formalizing something like that. Oh yeah, if you give at the $500 a year level, you'll be invited to have lunch or breakfast or coffee or whatever with Nathan on a monthly basis or quarterly basis, or however you decide is worthwhile. So you've got all these assets that people don't necessarily realize, but having the ear of an executive director or the board president or whoever it is, I think can be a great thing. It doesn't cost much.
because Nathan doesn't drink coffee, so it really won't cost a lot.
Jeff and Dawn, where are you from? I know I recognize Dawn Doring, but
yeah, my name is Jeff Cooper. I am with Gallery 96 in Shoreview. Tom Lennon forwarded me the invitation, and so we're a very small arts group, 65 members. and always struggling with some of these same questions about, you know, how to improve what we can offer with more members and more support. So this has been very helpful.
Cool.
Jeff,
I used to,
you feel free to reach out to us. Maybe we can help each other out.
Yeah,
Definitely.
you probably know Tom Rainin, and
Yeah.
he wasn't able to attend tonight. So
I used to live in Shoreview.
yeah,
Yeah.
So did I.
Yes, you did.
Nathan, are you a Mounds View grad?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay. What class? What year?
2013.
2013. So my daughter is Ellen Cooper. Were you a theater on a Mounds View theater? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I did
Alright.
a lot of theater.
All right. Okay. I recognized you. That's like I got it. You had to have gone to school with one of my two kids. I knew that. So, anyways.
Did you guys see,
Able to talk?
did you see Dawn's message? She chatted. She said, yes, I'm a musician in Lindstrom and a member. Get this, I love these ideas and would be a monthly supporter of $10 a month for a free class. Smiley face. Got your first monthly
Love you,
donor.
Don.
Like it.
Yep. I mean, seriously, that's you have to make sure that it doesn't cost you $120 to give that away. You have to, you know, make sure you've got your ROI, but I would think that would be really cool. So I'd love to see where that goes. Yeah. And Nathan, I don't drink coffee either. I haven't grown up yet. So I'm with you, but I still will go have coffee with people and I'll have my water, my soda. All right. Any other questions or thoughts? This has been so fun. Oh, Don texted, or Don also loves the idea of arts organizations having a passport to each other. North Suburban Arts Center in Fridley is one I am working with as a partner at my day job. So
we are part of NARM, the North American Reciprocal Museum Association.
does that work at the, like Jeff's organization?
The organizations have to be a part of NARM. It doesn't cost much to join, but for example, if you're a member of the Wyoming Area Creative Arts Community, you can get in with a NARM membership, and that's a membership that costs, they require that it's at least $100 a year membership. So, but if you get a NARM level membership, you can go into over 1,000 galleries across North America as a member. For example, the Walker is in there. You know, so you could go into the Walker. Down in Florida, you could go into the Salvador Dali Museum. Yeah, as a member. Wouldn't cost you anything. One of our members tried to go ahead. They went there on a vacation with their family, and they
didn't have their NARM card.
They didn't have their NARM card, and it cost
$70.
$75. So.
But to also you share the same benefit as the people in that facility. It's not, you know, I'm actually getting free, but you might have some organization might have a membership where you get 50% off. You get that 50% off.
For example, if you're a NARM member, you know, and I mean, you could enter into one of our exhibits as a member without having to pay an entry fee. So.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So Nathan, next time that I see you, remind me to talk to you about a nonprofit that I started back when I was in my 20s. And I mean, and where I'm going with that is you getting contacts of other gallery directors and creating a monthly phone call, for example, just to bounce ideas off of and network with would not be a horrible idea. And all you need a way is to either use Zoom or Google Meet or whatever to do that. And as Don was saying, like that, like he's working the Fridley Art Gallery, like all of you guys grouping together throughout Minnesota and hopping on a monthly call for for 30 minutes to an hour, just have open discussion and networking opportunities might be another way too to A, get our name out there, B, discover what everybody else is doing to accomplish or to fight these challenges. And heck, they're kind of fun anyway to do that type of stuff.
Hey, everybody, out of respect for my sister's time, I think unless there's any urgent questions, I want to thank Liz for doing this. And we're going to kick everybody out of here.
One last question though.
Yeah.
Liz, will you join our board?
Oh, I don't think, I can't, but thank you.
It's a compliment. Yeah.
I know, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
My absolute pleasure. I'm happy to do this for Eric and Carla and for all of you, truly. And if you have any follow-up questions, Eric will share it's Liz Sheahan at yahoo.com, but Eric will share my personal email with me or with you. And I will send him the PDF of this presentation. So if there's any value to that, you can have that. Anyway, happy to, if you have any other questions, just email me and just say you saw me tonight and had this other follow-up question or idea or whatever. Eric always gets the family discount. So if there's anything more I can do in the future, I'm happy to help. Appreciate it. All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Nathan,
Thank
don't
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.